Hello and welcome. It's a war that's cost more than 70,000 lives, but after 3 decades, it may be reaching a decisive turning point. Sri Lankan forces say they have the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam on the verge of defeat after chasing them to the tip of the island. Asia's longest-running war has torn apart the country, with civilians caught in the middle, desperately trying to fend for themselves. There's increasing international pressure for an end to Sri Lanka's civil war. Although government forces say they've managed to kill key leaders of the separatist Tamil Tigers and are poised to beat them once and for all, the need for a truce to help the refugees is urgently growing. The UN says that more than 188,000 civilians have fled the conflict zone, and most are in transit camps where they need food and medical supplies. Well, denying that they are in a severely weakened position, the Tamil Tigers also refute claims by aid agencies that they are holding civilians as human shields. Sri Lanka's leaders have so far resisted calls from Britain and France for a ceasefire, arguing that it would allow the separatists to regroup. On today's show, we take a closer look at the conflict in Sri Lanka and ask, what are the possible solutions to this political and humanitarian crisis? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room, and then take part. And we also welcome your phone calls on the show, of course. To discuss the issue, we have Nirj Deva, a Sri Lankan British politician from the Conservative Party and currently a member of the European Parliament. He joins us from Strasbourg in France. From Oslo, Norway, is Erik Solheim, the Norwegian Minister for Development and also the Minister of the Environment. He was part of the Norwegian delegation negotiating a truce in the Sri Lankan civil war. And from Urbana, Illinois, is Francis Boyle, an international law and human rights expert and professor of law at the University of Illinois. Dr. Boyle has called on several nations to fulfill their obligations under the Geneva Conventions to launch an immediate humanitarian airdrop relief operation. Well, let's get straight to our questions. Erik Solheim, if I could start with you with an idea of the information that you've had on the situation on the ground right now. How desperate have things become?
The situation is very desperate on the ground. Of course, we have limited information because no international media are accepted into the area, nor are there any foreigners in this no-fire zone where the Tamil Tigers are now trapped. So we do not have the most accurate information. But whatever we do have is that the situation is extremely serious. There is malnutrition, particularly among children and elderly people. According to UN estimates, 6,000 to 7,000 civilians have been killed over the last 2 to 3 months. So the situation for the civilians is absolutely desperate.
Mr. Solheim, you negotiated or helped to negotiate a truce in 2002. It seems to have gone a long way downhill since then. And I wonder, from your perspective, what do you see as the main cause in the failure to find common ground between the Tamil Tigers and the Sri Lankan government right now?
I think in a way that the solution to the conflict is pretty simple. I mean, in 2002, 2003, that solution lay on the table. It was a federal state. It would have been accepted by nearly all Tamils, the vast majority of Sinhalese and Muslims, and the broad international community. Everyone supported that agreement. I think it still stands to find some way of accommodating Tamil aspirations, but within a united Sri Lanka. That is the universally accepted solution internationally.
Well, I know we have callers wanting to come on, but let me get a question to Dr. Boyle, Francis Boyle, and ask, both the Tamil Tigers and the government say that they have the upper hand. From your perspective, who has the military advantage right now?
Well, I don't think anyone has the military advantage. I'm here to talk about the 50,000 people right now in the so-called no-fire zone who are being bombarded, killed, and starving to death. We really need to act immediately to remedy this situation. We need an immediate ceasefire and then a massive humanitarian relief to the starving people of Vani by air, sea, and land. I think it's petty and insulting at this point, with all due respect to you, to be talking about anyone with a military upper hand when so many lives are at risk, as Minister Solheim has correctly pointed out.
Understood. I'll get on to the issue of the humanitarian crisis in just a moment with you some more, Dr. Boyle, but let me bring in Nirj Deva here quickly with a question. The Sri Lankan government has continued to shell even when it said it wasn't shelling, and there's evidence, video documented evidence of shelling of civilian areas. And I wonder why has the Sri Lankan government continued to shell like this, considering the situation with the civilians? Why take such harsh action with the refugee situation the way it is too?
Riz, in your introductory remarks, you mentioned that about 188,000 people have come out of that zone. This is probably the biggest hostage rescue in human history. I think we need to give some credit to that these people have been allowed to come out, they have been put into camps, and they are being fed and looked after. There are several thousand people we know still trapped inside because they are being used as a human shield. Now, if the LTT were really serious about the Tamil people, they would stop using the Tamil people in that area as a human shield and allow them to come out and be courageous enough to fight man for man. But they're not doing that. They're hiding behind old ladies and old men, and apparently using child soldiers too.
Well, let's get a couple of questions in because the callers are lining up. Satya's in London with a question. Satya, thanks for your patience. What would you like to ask?
Yeah, I would like to ask 3 questions to Mr. Eric Solheim. Is it possible?
Please, go ahead, very quickly.
Yeah. The first thing is that you all know in the worldwide, every student are going on hunger strike. Most of the students are going on hunger strike. So why the international community is not, make any decision to, support the, Tamils and, everyone know, the Tamils need a free homeland, and that's what the Tamil Tigers are fighting. What do you think about that? And the next question is, as you know about Tamil Tigers very much. I mean, you were like a peace mediator.
Satya,
to Sri Lanka.
Let's have the questions though. It's important because we need to move on as well.
Yeah. What do you think about LTT? Are they good or bad?
Okay, so Eric Solheim, 2 questions there to tackle. First, why is there, in Satya's perspective, a lack of sympathy for the Tamil Tigers' cause for a homeland? And then, how do you regard the Tamil Tigers when it comes to judging them? Do you feel they're a force for good or a force for bad?
There is broad international support for Tamil self-rule within a united Sri Lanka. Some sort of Tamil self-government in the northeast, for instance, a federal system within a united Sri Lanka is broadly supported by the international community. There is hardly any support for a Tamil separate state, simply because there is no, globally, there is no appetite for more separate states. When it comes to the view of the LTT, I think there are 2 issues at the moment. One demand to the LTT, the other to the government of Sri Lanka. The LTT should do, as Nirj Deva is also commenting upon, they should let everyone in the zone under their control be given the individual right to decide for themselves whether they want to stay in that zone or leave it. Unfortunately, there is very strong evidence that the LTT is using the civilians as a human shield and are killing people who want to get out of the zone. On the other hand, the government of Sri Lanka should not attack with heavy weapons a zone they themselves have defined. The government of Sri Lanka asks people to move into that zone for protection. Then they cannot attack with heavy weapons a zone which should protect people. Both parties are responsible for solving this situation.
Kamlesh is in Canada with a question. Kamlesh, what would you like to ask?
Yes, I would like to ask Mr. Solheim, you know, all these years he's been a peace facilitator for the Tigers. There hasn't been any development by Norway for the past so many years, and now they're trying to keep the Tigers alive. And the other question is, all these protesters around the world, they've been trying to keep the Tigers alive. Why haven't they trying to keep the innocent civilians? The intent is
okay, a quick response, Mr. Solheim, to that.
At the moment, we have only one focus from the side of Norway, which is exactly the same as the view of the European Union, United States, Japan, and others, and that is to give do whatever is in our hands to protect the innocent civilians of the north. There are so many now in the, who have entered the IDP camps. They should be protected in those camps. No one should be killed, disappearing or tortured. And those who remain in the LTT zone should be allowed to leave the zone if they so wish. And we strongly ask both parties to live up to their humanitarian, to what are demanded from, of them from a humanitarian point of view.
Now, I know I want to get our perspective from our other panelists in just a moment, but we have to take a short break. I'll get to those in just a second when our discussion continues. Don't forget, you can join the chat room. Livestation.com is where you log on, and the conversation is taking place in there right now. Join in with your questions and comments. We'll be right back.